Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today. It's part 2 of our webinar series on heart health, but today actually goes a little bit beyond heart health, and we're going to be talking about the power of attitude. To me, good health is more than just exercise and diet. It's really a point of view and a mental attitude you have about yourself. Albert Schweitzer. Let's take a look at the attitude connection, because for thousands of years, the state of your mind has been linked to the health of your body. In one way or another, all major religions and all ancient health practices address the importance of this link. Calm mind brings inner strength and self-confidence, so that's very important for good health. That's the Dalai Lama. Bottom line is that to change an attitude, however, you really need to understand how you develop them. Attitude, the definition is how we think or feel about someone or something. We can go hours or even days without consciously considering our attitudes in life. Most of them are actually habitual. So for this reason, your attitudes may be one of the most underrated health weapons you have in your arsenal of defense against disease. Let's take a look at this. Let's look at first the components of attitude. So one of the ways to look at attitude is it has an ABC component. Something affects you. Feelings or emotion that something is evoking. It might be a person, a situation, where you're at, what you're doing, but it affects you. And once you're affected, you start to have behavior in response to that effect. And your behavior is the tendency or disposition to act in a certain way towards that feeling or emotion or situation that caused and affected you. And the third component is your cognitive piece of it, which is now what you think or believe or have ideas about based on how you felt and how you acted, or maybe even how you justify how you acted because of how you felt. It can get pretty interesting, actually, when you are really trying to look at the origins of an attitude and figuring out how does it work or does it not work in your life. So bottom line, what we think we are. We have thoughts, and our thoughts begin to determine what we believe about things, people, situations. And then what we believe can cause us to feel certain ways. So there's two ways that feelings work. Feelings can be a response to a situation, but they can also be a response to what you believe about a situation. So there's external causes for feelings. And as we age and get more and more into our habits, we begin to have more internal causes for our feelings that are based on our beliefs around situations that we've had in our life. But ultimately, the bottom line is then feelings affect your actions. So the way we feel influences how we're going to act. But the interesting part of that is you can go backwards, and sometimes by changing your actions, you can begin to change your thoughts, and that can begin to help you have a different belief, which can begin to help you feel differently. Acting different can help you feel different, and when you feel different, you can shift your belief, and that can begin to shift your thought. So this isn't a one-way directional graphic as it looks in this picture. It's actually equally backwards and forwards depending on your ability to distance yourself from what you're feeling in the moment, or be able to look back at something that how you acted or how you felt and take it to pieces so you can see what the cause was or what the habit was instead of the cause, and then deconstruct it if you don't like how you feel. You can't live a positive life with a negative mind, and ultimately this is where your health effects really begin to originate. If as a child you had a lot of negative things happen and you began to have negative beliefs about situations that you had no control over, it's very difficult to create a really positive life until you have dealt with those negative attitudes that are no longer serving you. That's just one example of what that can look like. There's actually a branch of science that studies the mind-body link. It's called Psychoneuroimmunology, or PNI, and it seeks to discover the ways in which our emotions and attitude, both positive or negative, can affect our health. The actual mechanisms involved with the connection between your health and positivity isn't really clear. They don't understand all of the physical mechanisms on how your positive or negative emotions affect your health. But what is clear is that there's absolutely a very strong link between positivity and good health. Your outlook, having a sense of optimism and purpose, seems to be predictive of health outcomes. This is Dr. Laura Kubzansky, who works at the Harvard School of Public Health. So how does it work? As I said, science isn't positive, but researchers suspect that people who are more positive may be better protected against the inflammatory damages of stress chemicals. When you are more positive, you produce less stress typically. And when you have less stress, you have less inflammation. However, another possibility is that hope and positivity help people to make better health and life decisions and focus more on long-term goals, which also can improve your health. And my personal belief is it is probably both of these put together, and maybe along with some other things that we can't really quantify yet. So let's look at some of the health benefits of positive thinking. Researchers continue to explore the effects of positive thinking and optimism on health. Health benefits that positive thinking include increased lifespan, lower rates of depression, lower levels of distress, which is literally less stress, greater resistance to the common cold, and of course that's based on a very specific study, better psychological and physical well-being. When you are more positive, you feel happier, and that makes you feel better. A reduced risk of death from cardiovascular disease. And that's why I included this presentation on heart health, because the link between positivity and cardiovascular disease is very, very strong. The science is very, very clear on this. And it also helps you create better coping skills when you do have hardships and times of stress that are out of your control. A feeling of positivity or having attitudes of positivity help you to cope with those situations. Let's look at some specific health studies on these different aspects of your attitude and your health. First, let's look at heart health. Dr. Kubzansky studied the health effects of several forms of psychological well-being. She found that emotional vitality, which is characterized by enthusiasm, hopefulness, engagement in your life, in other words, not feeling like you're a victim to it and that you have no choices, and the ability to face life's stresses with emotional balance, is associated with a substantially reduced risk of heart attack and stroke. At Johns Hopkins University, Lisa Arianic, MPH, and her team determined that positive versus negative outlook using a survey tool that assesses a person's cheerfulness, energy level, anxiety levels, and satisfaction with health and life. They discovered that people with a family history of heart disease, but who developed and had a positive outlook, were 1/3 less likely to have a heart attack or other cardiovascular event than those in the same family with the same health history, familial health history, that had a negative outlook. That's a 33% less likelihood of developing a significant heart disease issue. I tell you what, most drugs are lucky to have half of that benefit and are considered very positive when they can achieve half of that level of benefit. Healthy aging. The Women's Health and Aging Study involves more than 1,000 women 65 or older who have varying levels of disability but still live on their own. So this is 1,000 women who have some level of disability. Using 2 tests designed to measure loss of function, women with greater emotional vitality perform significantly better than their less positive counterparts who had similar levels of disability. If your attitude is positive, disability is less disabling. That's kind of amazing. Breast cancer. In a study of women with breast cancer, Dr. Sandra Levy at the University of Pittsburgh Cancer Institute found that women who were more depressed had lower natural killer cell activity than those who had a hopeful, positive outlook. It was also noted that the women who had experienced a great deal of joy and happiness in their lives had a higher survival rate. And joy and happiness can be brought about by outside things. Some people are blessed in this life. They have an easy life maybe compared to others. They're not in financial straits. They haven't had familial issues. We can be born with an easier life that's going on in our family, for example. However, joy and happiness are to some degree ephemeral, which means you can create your own joy and happiness a lot of the time. And so if you have an experience that is what your life is, the outside markers in your life may not be as affecting to you, and it lets you survive things like breast cancer. So let's look at some tips, because I'm all about really making it work. None of this is great information unless it makes a difference in our lives. So tip number 1 is to smile. A University of Kansas study found that smiling, even fake smiling, reduces your heart rate and blood pressure during stressful situations. So fake it till you make it. It's a real thing. I personally have experienced this more than once in my life. It's not comfortable to fake being happy. However, what I discovered for myself is in the process of faking a smile, of faking being happier, I came to some resolution around whatever was not really making me that happy, and it did affect me less. More than once, I have found that this is a true thing. So develop the smiling. Learn to, when you get out of your car to go shopping, put a smile on your face, and make a conscious effort. I turn off the key and I put a smile on my face, and see how your day goes. And of course, I just love this picture. Children know how to smile. Tip number 2, choose how you respond. This can be an issue. A lot of times our response to something is a habit, especially when it's a response to people in our lives, especially if there are people in our lives a lot, spouses, children, coworkers. And unpleasant situations and peoples are going to be a part of being human. We can choose how we handle those situations. One example would be you're in a traffic jam. That can be phenomenally frustrating, especially if you have somewhere to go. Or opposite, you really want to just get home and be like time off. But accept it. Accept you cannot do anything to change the traffic. And maybe appreciate, okay, I can afford a car. I'm not on the bus. I'm not on a train. And then spend those extra minutes listening to some music, listening to an audiobook, whatever you enjoy. It's all about being conscious of when we have a choice. As I said, there's a lot of things we don't have choices over. When we have a choice and we learn to remain conscious of them, more and more we begin to take advantage of the power we have in our own life to feel better. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. Maya Angelou, such an incredible person, who had great sorrow and strife and pain in her childhood and life, and turned it into incredible, beautiful art that we can all learn and live by. Tip number 3, be true to your heart. So when in doubt, listen to your deeper feelings, not just your immediate response feelings like, oh, that jerk, he just cut me off in traffic, or I don't like that coworker, look how they're treating me. If you're not sure how to react, listen to your deeper feelings. If you're forced into actions that don't reflect your core beliefs, you will become angry, resentful, or depressed. And again, I am speaking from experience. I have been in situations and in jobs far in my past where I had to be a certain way and do certain things that did not fit what I thought I was, or certainly did not fit how I thought I should be treated. And I did get angry, and I was very resentful. I wasn't depressed. I didn't tend to get depressed. I tended to get mad. That was my personal thing. And I just had a lightning bolt one day where I was in a situation with coworkers where I had worked for them several different shifts and um, was really always willing to step in when they needed time off or time out. And I had asked for someone to step in for a couple of days for me because I had a family thing I needed to do, and they refused to help me. And I became violently angry because I had literally for 2 years given anybody what they needed if I was capable of it. And in that great deal of anger, I had a moment of clarity that anger was really just energy. And the energy was encouraging me to understand that I was in a situation that did not reflect my belief about myself, that I was a valuable coworker. And I quit the next day. Not because I was mad with the job or mad with the owners. I just realized it did not feed me and did not reflect where I needed to be in my life. You carry so much love in your heart. Give some to yourself. Tip number 4, commit to yourself. No one else is responsible for your choices, at least not once you're an adult. Therefore, commit yourself to remembering and then acting on the best of who you are and who you want to be. There is nothing more important in my mind than this. Commit to who you want to be. And we all have moments where we might be in reaction, we might be hurt, we might be sad, we might withdraw, we might get mad. Everyone might have their own individual reaction to something that doesn't feel good or isn't quite right. Go in and commit to yourself. Commit to acting the best of who you are and commit to becoming the best of who you can be. Commit to yourself as a flower commits to blooming. Tip number 5, count your blessings. In a landmark study, people who were asked to count their blessings felt happier, they exercised more, had fewer physical complaints, and slept better than those who created lists of hassles. Again, part of the time, this can become a habit. It can become a habit to look at what's not working. I encourage every one of us, and I include myself, to always look at what is working. I get caught up in what I'm not enjoying in my life. I really make an effort to get out of that, move out of that, and remember what is beautiful in my life and what I am blessed with. When I started counting my blessings, my whole life turned around. That's from Willie Nelson. So the upshot of today's webinar is I hope all of you have a beautiful week and remember to be the best of who you are. Thank you so much and enjoy.